Hello everyone, Which Linux here. This is a kind of an unusual video because our channel's main focus is Linux. But nonetheless, I want to talk about Windows in this video and why Windows just makes sense and why Windows is one of the best operating systems out there that an individual can use. Without any further ado, let's get started. So right on top, things like beginning with things, the user interface itself is much more oriented towards clicks and taps rather than typing weird commands in terminal to access shit. Like say suppose you want to open up a file or a folder, it's pretty much simple. Just double click on it and there you go. If you want to move files around, all you gotta do is drag the file itself across the folders. What did I do? I don't want to do this. I just do right click and move. Basically, it just makes sense and it's very easy to use. There is pretty much zero learning curve, I would say, for Windows. And the customizability itself is like infinite possibilities are there in Windows itself. You could use Power Toys, you could crank the shit out of the taskbar, you could hide the let me just quickly show you. You could hide the desktop icons, whatnot. You could change the wallpaper. You could even tinker with the icon pack itself. I mean, like there are a lot of customizations that do happen in Windows, similar to Linux. And the second point I would want to stress is driver availability. Say, suppose you're a content creator, or say, suppose you're a gamer, and you want to play a modern AAA title. And if you're on Linux or even on macOS, don't even think about it. It's going to take a lot of time to become stable to be playable on Linux and forget about macOS altogether. All the game developers, most of the times, I mean, like I would say 99% of the times when they release a game, they mainly focus on releasing it for Windows because that's where most of their user base is. That's what they care. And even when it comes to the driver support, even NVIDIA or AMD, they release their latest and greatest to Windows first. And they have all the bells and whistles like say suppose screen recording using GPU, say suppose DLSS, say suppose DirectX. All of these features are dedicated to Windows, and they are far away for coming into Linux or Mac OS. So driver support is pretty good, I would say. And the third point I would say is software availability. Say suppose some you want some software to be downloaded and just to be used on your desktop. Say suppose WhatsApp web or Teams or Slack or some kind of weird editor like JetBrains IntelliJ IDEA. All of them are just like simple two or one or two searches away. Say suppose I want to download a weird application where I want to download some VPN, Surfshark VPN. If you click on it and if you go to the download page, that's it. You would click on get started, you would download the executable, click next, 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 you're done. It's as simple as that. Unlike on the other side of the globe where people use Linux, it's not as easy as it is for Windows. You got someone has to build binaries for you. Say suppose you're on Arch, and like people already built something on AUR, and you're lucky enough to use it. And even after all of those things, I'm pretty sure it's not stable as Windows. So there you go. I mean, like software availability and software updates for the apps itself is really good, I would say. And Windows has a Windows Store. I mean, like I have mixed opinions about Windows Store, but like, come on, guys. Uh, when you think about like installing things using command line, even Windows these days has its own proprietary package manager called as winget. So you could just say winget search power toys, it would search. So it works similar to any other package manager out there like DNF or apt or whatnot. So I mean, like software side, everything is sorted. Okay, moving on. Say suppose sound, audio, video, all of these things. I mean, like say, just let's take Netflix for example. If I play Netflix on Google Chrome on Windows, there is a very good chance that I could play it at 4K or 1080p. but it's not the same when you run Google Chrome and Netflix in Linux. You would be pretty much capped at 720p because of DRM rights. And Netflix, I mean, like Netflix, not only Netflix, Netflix, Prime Video, Hotstar, all those applications, they built a custom application or at least a version of a web app to work around with for Windows, but not for Linux. So, I mean, like, even like for content consumption, Windows is like plain better. And coming to sound, currently I use this Lenovo IdeaPad. It has Dolby Atmos certification, and the sound is like almost on par with any other decent laptop, I would say. The sound is pretty much well, loud with huge bass, a little bit amount of treble, and it really sounds awesome when I play something on Windows. But like as soon as I shift to Linux, say suppose Fedora or Ubuntu or whatnot, uh, the audio quality itself drops humongously. There is no bass. The entire vocals are flattened, and like the volume itself goes a lot down. I don't know what's the issue or what's the deal with sound with Linux, but I find it like Windows deals sound better. And like things like Dolby Atmos certification or Harman Kardon certification or like any other big player, they gave this certification for Windows, not for Linux. So there that goes. And like when you say, suppose you are a power user and you would like to use Linux as well. Sure, Windows has this emulation layer called as WSL. I'm pretty sure that everyone has heard it at this point. So WSL is kind of an emulation layer for built for Windows, where the kind of mapping the kernel calls from the Linux virtual machine to the Windows kernel itself. I don't really know how actually things work for WSL, but basically it allows you to run Linux, uh, and it really works. So suppose you want to check out a new Linux distribution, you could just throw in a virtual box, virtual machine, and then call it a day. So that's what I'm saying. Say suppose even OBS works right out of the box with a zero configuration on Windows. But like on the other side, where in Linux, if you want to record something, even after configuring 100 different things, it might still break. That's what I'm talking about, guys. It's just simple and it just works. Moving on. Coming to the entire software itself, like Windows is closed source, not open source. So that opens to a lot of vulnerability risks, a lot of security risks. But even then, since a majority of the, like the security threats itself, most of the attackers write the scripts that are focused with Windows 10. Like Windows in focus. So I would say, like the software situation itself is a pretty bad for Windows, but still, Windows has pretty good update cycles, and like Windows still need to work on when they have to update their system, because almost everyone I know who uses Windows is pretty much angry on the updates. I don't know, like why, how Microsoft pulled it, but like they pulled it very bad. Okay, moving on. We have, the human interface devices itself, like trackpad, keyboard, shortcuts. So there is something called as Windows Precision Drivers for trackpad. Basically, it allows you to use gestures using your trackpad. This is pretty much common. Like these drivers are pretty much common with modern laptops. Like three swipes, like three finger swipes for switching tabs, four finger swipes for switching workspaces. So Windows has, a lot of good support for human interaction devices. Say suppose you have a weird gaming controller, Windows has support for that. You have racing wheel, joysticks, pedals, whatnot. Windows has support for that as well. So Windows has a very, what do you say, a huge collection of drivers that could be used and loaded. And like the market, like the community itself helps you out a lot. Say suppose if you're stuck on a problem, say suppose you're stuck on how to say suppose update Steam. It's a pretty normal issue. All you would do is go to Google Chrome and search how to update Steam on Windows. You would see thousands and thousands of replies. But if you search for similar kind of problem that is specific to Linux, there's a very good chance that you might be the first person to be looking at this issue, and you have to deal with it. Moving on, the power management on Windows. So say suppose right now on this laptop, it's an AMD laptop. So if I put it on battery saver on Windows, basically what happens is the battery runs basically for like 7 to 8 hours. No brainer. But as soon as I shift into Fedora, Pop! OS, whatnot, like Manjaro, all of those operating systems have their own power monitoring tools and power monitoring software. Even with the best battery saver power profile on those distributions, I could barely pull off 5 hours or 6 hours max. So Windows gets kudos over there. I mean, like, obviously, it could be because of like the laptop situation itself. In general, Linux takes or Linux consumes a little bit less amount of resources when compared to Windows. But like to the audience, to the majority of the audience at least, who use computers or laptops, they don't really care if Windows uses 1 GB of memory more than Linux, right? That is how things work here. Moving on, say suppose you are a hardware enthusiast, you want to tweak the voltages, you want to undervolt, you want to say suppose overclock your CPU, play with memory values, play with offset values, whatnot. All of those things you could do pretty much with no brainer on Windows, because a lot of tools are available. Say suppose if you want to overclock GPUs, you have MSI Afterburner. If you want to overclock your CPUs, you have Throttle Stop, you have Intel XTO. I mean, like a lot of tools are designed uh, to work with Windows. But all of these basic things that are available for Windows are not available for Linux. Say suppose MSI Afterburner, there is no binary that I have seen till now that works on Linux with no bugs at all. So there goes it. Moving on, the Office suite itself. So basically, Windows comes with my MS Office. This has been the best Office suite in like past 1 or 2 decades. I mean, like, not LibreOffice, no macOS Contender, or even Google Sheets, Google Docs comes nowhere near to what MS Office offers. I mean, like, say suppose Excel itself. Every data scientist I know, everyone who, I mean, like the person who is a data analyst or works with data or with huge worksheets, they use Excel, not Google Sheets, not some LibreOffice version of Google. I mean, like Excel. They use just Excel because they have, I mean, like Excel itself or the Microsoft Office suite itself is really like a huge. It really has a huge number of features, and it's constantly updated, and it's much more usable than any other contender, I would say. That, I mean, like, its popularity speaks for itself. And even like Adobe Suite, say suppose you're a content creator, the entire Adobe Suite is available for either Mac OS or Windows, but not Linux. So you gotta figure out yourself where you would want to be. Say suppose I'm doing all these small YouTube videos. If I would like to edit some video, I mean, like quickly edit a video, uh, there are a lot of things to consider for editing that video, for choosing the software itself. Does it work with my AMD GPU? Does it work on my specific Linux distribution? Does it work with my specific setup? I might have to install a few other libraries. I might have to remove some packages. I might have to build it. So there are a lot of headaches going on Linux, but like on Windows, all I have to do is just install Adobe, and then like it just installs the software and double click, pull your files, edit, done. It's as simple as that. Moving on, what else is there? Shortcuts, or maybe I mean, like shortcuts is a pretty controversial topic itself. I mean, like every operating system has its own shortcuts, but like I would say, like Windows 1, Windows 2, Windows 3, Windows 4. I mean, like what I mean is like the shortcuts are much more, they make much more sense and comparatively. I mean, again, it's a controversial system. And window management. This is one other thing I wanted to talk. Window management system is awesome in Windows. If you drag onto the top, a small tile pops up here, and you could point how you would like to, where you would like to put this particular window in your, desktop. And it's really awesome. I mean, like it's not. I mean, like for an average user, this really gets all the bells and whistles. I mean, like this kind of looks like, like the windowing managers that we would see in Linux. But still, I mean, like this is pretty neatly integrated, I would say, comparatively. Again, it's controversial topic. Right. That was my big list of why Windows is better and why everyone should just use Windows if you're a casual user, or if you're just a casual student with no interest in poking around operating systems. I would suggest, I mean, like even if you have to use Linux for your class or work, I would simply suggest instead of installing Linux directly, I mean, like, say suppose if it's Ubuntu, yeah, sure, you could use Ubuntu or something that's really stable, something like Fedora. But like anything other than that, I would suggest stick to Windows. You have all the drivers, you have all the bells and whistles, and just use whatever you want to do Linux stuff in a virtual machine, and it would just save your day. So that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. What do you guys think about Windows in general? Let me know in the comments. Do you like Windows, or do you hate it, or do you don't even care about it? See you then. Bye bye.